to be the special guest and the speaker for this wonderful engagement, especially impacting our nation, Nigeria. I've been asked to speak on the power of the people. That's the main topic, but there are phrases there, what it was and what it can be. And don't agonize, but organize. The introduction has already been done. So I'll just go straight into my presentation. So as an introduction, the power of the people simply means democracy. Because when you look at the dictionary definition of democracy, it is a system of government by the people or the whole population or the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. There are representatives across various levels, from the lowest level being the councillors, chairmen, state assembly members, governors, national assembly members, and the president. That is the American system of democracy that we are practicing in Nigeria as a nation. But for when you start as a student of government in the secondary school, this simple definition of democracy is put this way: it's government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Meaning that democracy is supposed to be people-oriented or people-centric. And this government of the people has a democratic process or a value chain which cuts across multi-party system, people being represented at different levels of the structure of the party. We are looking at the power of the people, and the definition of that is simply democracy. So democracy actually entrusts power to the people, and the leaders are only there as servants to represent the people. So that's what the whole essence of democracy is: having representatives who hold that power in trust for the people to give them dividends of democracy. Of course, not everybody can lead, but the people gather through that democratic process to elect respective leaders across the levels of leadership to lead them and provide good governance. So that's what the essence of democracy is. But unfortunately, this democracy has not given us the dividends. Why? Because one, there are actually no internal democracy across the political parties. If you look at what's happening or what's happening in the current 2023 elections across board, and one I was able to have full knowledge of, they just write names during the party primaries. They write names of individuals based on some factors, the godfatherism factor. So that's one of the reasons why we've not been able to get dividends of democracy. The people that are elected, selected, because the democracy is not practiced the way it should. So some certain individuals now have the power. The power no longer belongs to the people because the process of election has been subverted. So the people become powerless. Some individuals hold this power and determine what happens. Names are written. If you can see several cases. There are a lot of litigations against several parties, against several primary processes that have been overturned. You can see the case in Borno State, in Yobe State, in Zamfara, several Akwa Ibom, several other states. So it is because there is no level playing field in the parties, in the democratic or internal democracy of the parties. So now the people that ordinarily should vote, now the new electoral process wanted direct primaries, means the delegate system will not be there. So political parties will now be the ones voting for their candidates. This is what strengthens democracy. Unfortunately, that was truncated. So they say, okay, you can do either or. And because of the powers that be, the guys now said, well, let us go for indirect primary, which is the delegate system. So the delegate system, it's the buyer takes all. It's about your money, your deep pocket. So if a good candidate comes that's not very rich, it's difficult for such candidates to come out. So the people that have the power are not able to get this power because the democratic process has been subverted. I just talked about one instance on the value chain. After the primaries, the next general elections. In the general elections, either INEC is compromised, the electoral umpire is compromised, or security agencies are compromised, or some powers that be use their thugs to snag ballot boxes, thumbprint, and just all manner. So the people have not been able to actually hold the power. The power has been taken from them, so they have become powerless. So if you now ask me what it was, I just talked about the power of the people, what it was. So what I just analyzed briefly is just an introduction. What it was, I don't think from where we were and where we are today, nothing has changed. It's just getting from bad to worse. It's just getting from bad to worse. The only little hope we have, it's in the electoral body that is bringing in technology transmission of results. So we feel that at least there could be some level of sanity, because the parties are not ready. If they are ready, there are a lot of things that they would have done, but the parties are not ready. So the next point that I will talk about concerning the phrase, what it was, the power of the people, what it was, and where are we now? All through independence till date, we have not had it better. It's been getting from bad to worse. And if you look at it clearly, you will see that we have built our systems and our institutions around individuals, which should not be so. And our constitution, unfortunately, has made that so. It's given enormous powers to the governors, to the president. In fact, one of the former presidents stated that he has not used 1/10 of the powers of his office. That power ordinarily should belong to the people. But unfortunately, it's not that way, because they are deliberately skewed the system around individuals. That's why one person becomes so powerful. But if our systems were built around processes, when you come into that system and you want to subvert the process, that process itself will shut you out. If you have, like, I give an example of a Honda vehicle. If you bring a spare part to replace maybe the fuel pump, and it's from a Toyota vehicle, it can't work. It will reject it. It will be clear. That is when you have a system that is strong. But our systems are weak. Our democratic systems are weak. So individuals come in, subvert the system, become so powerful, and they do whatever they want. But you see, what it can be is that things can change for the better, because the only permanent thing in this world is change. It's in itself. And like someone said, it's only a fool who does same thing over and over and expects a different result. So where we are in Nigeria at this point, I have been opportunity to speak with 1, 2, 3, 4%. And you will now see the impact also on what we call the Japa syndrome, the word borrowed from our Yoruba brothers, the Japa syndrome. The people don't have hope in the nation again because of what they are seeing. The leadership have brainwashed people they led so much so that it has become difficult to see anything good in Nigeria. When you interview 5 or 10 people out of the 10, you have only 1 or 2 that have hope in this nation. But I like to tell us, friends, that a new Nigeria is possible if we, the people, decide so. A new Nigeria is possible. There's a graphical illustration of people. There's a table. The big guys, the few percentage that are controlling what I had explained earlier, eating lavishly on the table, but the masses are under the table, and this table is on their back. Someone said that the day these people stand up, that will be the end. So I see that happening, and I pray that happens in my generation so that we'll have a breath of fresh air in this nation. And scripture stated clearly that the people know not, neither do they understand that they have so much power. As a result of that ignorance, they walk on in darkness, and all the foundations of the earth are out of course. Now, the last 2 phrases, don't agonize, but organize. You see, scriptures have succinctly captured all forms of agonizing and lamentations. So rather than dwell on agonizing, I'd advocate for us to have a forward-thinking style and see how we can organize. Unfortunately, we have different groups that have sprung out across the nation. You have Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta Men, you have PANDEF, you have NGPVF from Niger Delta Volunteer Force, headed by the Ateketons, Mujahid Asari Dokubo, late Kensaro Wiwa, IPOR by Kanun Wako in the southeast, OPC in the southwest that was led by Ganyu Adams, and several other groups coming up. This tells us clearly that there have been injustices. These are the result of bad governance. And these are the proofs of the lamentations of the different groups of people to see how they can form pressure groups to demand for their rights. Now, what I see and what several of us will see is that, and the question we'll ask ourselves is, have the objectives of these groups been met, or are the major actors carrying out the real objectives of these pressure groups? That remains to be seen. Now, the youth found a voice under the umbrella of NSAS, but that was quashed with brute force by the Nigerian government, and that is where I'm going. We as a people can organize, but the power actually lies in the youth. One of the attendees here, actually, he was asked what his expectations are at the end of this session. He stated it clearly that he wants to see how the youth can be engaged or he wants to see clearly how the youth are actually empowered, or they have the power to change the narrative for a better Nigeria. As an introduction, quickly about the power of the youth, because yes, the people have the power, but the real activity is in the youth, because an active nation is a nation with young population. And we need to understand that the youth are the greatest assets of any nation. not only are they legitimately regarded as the future leaders, they are also potentially the greatest investments for a country's development. So for a country to develop, that country has to invest in the youth. And they serve as good measure to the extent to which a country can reproduce as well as sustain itself. The extent of the vitality of the youth lies in their responsible conduct and roles in society. And this is positively correlated with the development of that country. But here in Nigeria, we have a leadership cadre that is filled with aged politicians who think nation building is their exclusive preserve, and as such, youth should not be given a chance. Perhaps their stand explains why youth are said to be leaders of tomorrow, but that future of tomorrow never comes. I give you a typical example, which we are very familiar. Senator Jonah Jang, who is about 70, as of 2 years ago, it should be close to 80 years now. During the military regime of Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, he served as military governor of Benue State, August 1985 to August 1986, as military governor of Gongola State from August 1986 to December 1933 years ago. He voluntarily retired from Nigerian Army in 1990, 17 years before becoming governor again. In 2007, he successfully contested the governorship election in Plateau State on the platform of PDP, and he won a re-election April 26, 2011. By 2015 to 2019, he was a senator of the Federal Republic. So you can see clearly that that future of the youth can never come, because someone that served and retired 33 years ago in the democratic dispensation, he came in and became a major player, denying the opportunity for youth to take their leadership role. Now, we will understand, if you look at the National Bureau of Statistics, you will see that 65% of Nigerian population are youth. And then how come youth leaders are above 50 years? When you check youth leaders across the political parties, there is none that's less than 30 years. So these questions and many more are part of the problems facing the youth that has incapacitated them to fully partake in issues of nation building. And in a broader sense, youth refers to people who have energy, vigor, and enthusiasm to get things done. In addition to age, it is a state of mind, a quality of imagination, a preponderance of courage over timidity, and an insatiable appetite for progressive reasoning. Of course, youth are the building blocks of every developed nation. The stronger the youth of a nation, the more developed that nation. I've had cause to work with a lot of my friends from China, and I've discovered that most of them that I've worked with, they are between 25 to 35 years. And there is none I've met that does not have a first degree, at least. I've been opportune to travel to China. In the course of one of my trainings, I had to ask the trainer about his educational details. He told me I just graduated with his master's degree, and he was given a loan of 1-digit interest. 1-digit interest at a minimal, about less than 10%. I think it resonates between 3 to 5% interest on a loan to study. That is a country that is conscious. China was a third world country like Nigeria, but the story is different. If you look at our infrastructure, Chinese are the ones responsible. You see CITCC, you see CCECC, just name them. In oil and gas, in fact, they've taken over the telecoms industry. It is because they have invested in their youth. But here we are as a nation that is still grappling and talking about development. Now, let's look at some of the issues and the challenges. I won't talk about so much of them, just one or two. The current state of Nigerian youth is so because the future of the youth has been mortgaged for selfish gains. Their minds have been chronically invested with low morality and loss of values. You look at several young people around, what is the value system? How do they perceive the nation? They will tell you they have no hope in the nation. I had stated that earlier. So our government is not engaging the youth. Our government only engage the youth during elections, and of course, we know clearly how they do it. I have one of my friends here that they are doing advocacy against violent extremism across the country. There's a project just to make sure that there is that national rebirth, that national rethinking of the youth, not to engage in violence, because when they are used, they are dumped. They are not used for anything good. They are only used as a means to an end. And when they get to that end, they forget about the youth wrangling in their squalor. So the question we ask ourselves is, instead of building enough schools and creating adequate employment opportunities, this is what has been happening. So we ask ourselves, should this continue? I think not. So that's part of why Song Africa is putting up this advocacy strategy to ensure there's a national rebirth for us to see how we can get involved in nation building as much as we can. And you see another aspect of this, yes, we say the power of the people, the democracy is actually the power of the people, lies in the people. And who are these people? We have done age segmentation and have defined that particular bracket as the youth that have the vigor and the energy to change our nation. But you see, some of our youth are the architect of their own misfortune because they have internalized the wrong precedents of corrupt politicians. They are ideologically corrupt and in a state of delirium. They choose violence instead of peace and mutual coexistence. They choose the comfort of the moment of striving for self-sacrifice that will guarantee the freedom of this nation. And they choose the highway of robbery instead of classroom. So some of these issues are not just the government, the youth also are responsible. Some of us are responsible for some of the things that are happening in this nation. The scripture says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach. And on the other side, it says when we have good people in leadership, the people rejoice. When we have bad people in leadership, the people mourn. I leave that to our conscience, whether we have good leadership or not. Now, I have dwelt on issues of the youth, the power that is in us, and the challenges that we are faced. Now, how can it be? What is the way forward? To really enhance the youth and make him or her contribute meaningfully to nation building is a duty for all, the government, the parents, and the youth themselves. So it's three-dimensional, the government, the parent, and the youth themselves. The energy and brightness of the minds of youth act as torchbearer for national development. And the countries which utilize their youth in positive direction are more developed. Now, if you go to before Barack Obama left the presidency, he's the one that instituted the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I think there are some states in Nigeria that are trying to, I think they bought into that and are trying to implement. I don't know how far that has gone. The STEM is essential because the world has developed, technology is driving the world. The president deliberately, when they looked at the statistics, the number of enrollment across the years, they discovered that the number of students going into science-based courses was dropping. So they made provision for, they made deliberate policies to ensure that more students at different levels go into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that is what helps national development. It's a deliberate system that countries are doing. If you go to Rwanda today, if you just land in Kigali, Rwanda is a landlocked country. Before you move from Kenya all the way to Rwanda, Rwanda, you have passed through from the seaside to import a particular goods into Rwanda. You'd have passed through 3 or 4 countries. It's a landlocked nation. Although you can imagine the impact on logistics to bring in that particular product into Rwanda. But the president has made deliberate policies. Now, Rwanda is not depending on natural resources. It's a knowledge-based economy running on technology. So there is a deliberate process to engage the youth as torchbearers to lighten the nation through national development. Then the government needs to provide good education, and this impacts positively on self and society. And the youth as well must seek to desire to be educated at all levels. And Nelson Mandela had this to say, no country can really develop unless its citizens are educated. So the responsibility of government is provision of jobs and employment opportunities as leverage for the youth to properly and conscientiously channel their energy and talent towards nation building. Now, where are the jobs? Where are the employment opportunities? Most of the jobs are government jobs. Most of the opportunities are in government circles, in civil service, but it ought not to be so. When you develop this youth, now, if you go to Lagos, Mark Zuckerberg came to Yaba. Yaba is the technology hub where there are tech startups. How many of that do we have our government consciously pushing? We are basically and essentially a consumption nation. That is why the impact of the exchange rate is affecting us in every facet of our life, because we consume more. There's no production. The production, as far as I'm concerned, in Nigeria is zero. We are not producing nothing. Common plastics are produced by Chinese in Nigeria. The Chinese repackage rice and sell to us in our own nation. We are not a productive nation. We are not. So the government has to provide adequate, what they call an enabling environment where the young people can thrive. If you provide, like the technology village, you provide electricity where they don't need to buy fuel to run their generators, you will see the impact on the economy. For example, a barbing salon by the side that does not need to think of electricity. The electricity will not be his problem. But if you see his operating costs, OPEX, in running his business over a period of 30 days, you discover that 80% of that goes to buying fuel, servicing his generator. So how do we make progress? We cannot. So government needs to create that enabling environment for the youth to thrive. And we must use our talent to serve our country and fatherland. We'll also need to help government at all levels in implementation of progressive policies. Some of these policies the government tried to bring, but individuals kill them. And the youth must also resist all forms of exploitation by individuals and groups for their personal aggrandizement and selflessness. For in this, they take away our voice and right and take us away from the big picture. And Socrates captured the way forward when he stated that the secret of change is to focus your energy not in fighting the old, but in building the new. So we don't need to focus on fighting the old men. We don't need to focus on fighting all that is there. It's for us to channel our energy in building what is new. I channel my energy, you channel your energy, we organize ourselves. We continue to do advocacy in our communities, in our villages, impact lives. And you see, when we start this across the nation, we begin to have impact, positive impact across, and it becomes, the thing now grows like wildfire. So the responsibility is in all of us to ensure that our nation moves from the quagmire of underdevelopment, lack of education, and the wheels of our industrial machines begin to move for development and for progress. And you see, there's another very critical aspect that is important, the human capital development. This is one of the most vital keys to bringing economic rebirth. It is the level of applied knowledge of the youth that helps in tackling the economic problems facing the nation. Placing values on education and skill acquisition or entrepreneurship is the way out of our present economic doldrums. Now, because of the challenges we face as a nation, when you go out, you see young people, they are striving in trying to become entrepreneurs. Most of them don't even bother looking for jobs. Most of them are trying to see what they can do. So if we have a government that gives a little push, we have several young people that can transform this nation. The youth need to develop an acute appetite for learning and knowledge, without which civilization crumbles. And Nigerian youth need to hunger for relevant facts and skills, thereby seeking solutions to the challenges facing us through enhanced mental capacity. The scripture says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. We need to enhance our mental capacity. There has to be a national rebirth. We had National Orientation Agency rebranded in different forms to try to reorientate us as a people. But I don't know how successful that project has gone. I don't think it's successful. But there has to be a national rebirth. How we think as a people. You are driving on the road with someone and the person sees clearly that you are struggling to pass through a pothole. Rather than slow down, wait for you, the person just passes. Everybody is struggling to go through at the same time. We require a national rebirth in our thinking. And then, as I round up, I have just 5 more minutes to round up. There has to be a national integration. As the youth are often called the potential leaders of the nation, hence their role in building a sustainable economic development is essentially by integrating them into the national policies and decision making. That is the leadership, but that is not happening. There has to happen. And how do we get this done? I don't need to wait. Everybody needs to belong to a political party. All of us need to get there because that's the process through which we elect our leaders. So if we get involved at every level of government and we begin to demand for accountability, we don't go there to ask to be bought, to snatch ballot box. We get there, we demand accountability for every process. By this way, we will definitely be involved in this national integration. Like someone said, the political ladder is old, the actors are old, but they cannot leave the stage. We need to come in and demand to be given that power. Like the scripture says, the kingdom of God is suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. So we need to step in to demand for accountability, demand for what is right at all levels, for us to understand that we have the power to change this nation. A lot of us have not been players. That's one of the reasons why a lot of these things are happening. Check most of us that we say we are elites or we are educated. How many of us have voters register? I mean, voters card, permanent voters card. How many of us have? That is our power. And I'm happy that if you look at the last 12 months in this nation, there is that national consciousness that really the church is stepping in, the religious institutions are stepping in to be involved in the democratic process. And this is a pointer, it's an encouragement. A lot of young people are getting involved in this process, and it's a pointer that we are going somewhere. 80 to 90% of the population of this nation, it's youth. And if we transform that population positively, we will take back power and put it where it belongs by electing leaders with capacity, leaders with integrity that will bring about good governance for a progressive nation. So I think I've come to the end of my presentation for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Pastor Emmanuel. Thank you very much. I think that there are a lot of things that really stood out for me in the entire thing. But one thing I will first hold on to is what you mentioned. You said that the secret of change is to focus your energy not on fighting the old, but in building the new. That was indeed powerful, both powerful and very, very inspiring. So we're at the forum whereby now we can take questions from the participants on the group chat. After that, we'll take what we call our reflection and activation segment. So if you have any questions, please feel free to make use of the raise your hand feature, and we'll be giving you the opportunity to share your questions as our speaker is still here with us tonight. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I can see Adu raising his hand, so kindly go ahead.
Okay, I want to thank the speaker for all he has said. I just want to ask this, based on Song Africa, the speaker that just spoke now, Pastor Akade, he spoke on power of the people. And he specifically said it means democracy, by the definition of democracy. So my question is this, based on his presentation, power of the people, what then is Song Africa, as we lay emphasis on democracy, how is Song Africa going to educate or orient the youth in political participation and believing in the project Nigeria? Because Nigeria is a project that we all have to believe in, that will bring about the change in order, that change that will lead us to that promised land that the first speaker that introduced the topic spoke about, or for the betterment of Nigeria. How is Song Africa going to do this? Because when we are talking about youth participating, he mentioned something. He said that the youths are the ones using hijacking electioneering process, hijacking of ballot papers, running, thumb printing, and the rest. So how are we going to orient the youth? How are we going to educate them? Because this has sunk into them over time. How is Song Africa going to unlearn this behavior in the youth? That's my question.
All right, thank you very, very much for that question. I think this question basically opens us up to what I said on initial when I talked about our core programs that I was going to share with the rest of us if we could stay to the end of the session. So, okay, before I go ahead with that, does anyone have another question? Because that would basically be us rounding up when we're sharing about what Song Africa is basically doing and how people can come on board and see that good governance is the mandate that we now follow. Does anyone have any question aside the first question we just got? Okay, I can see a hand from Owutoshi Solomon. So once we get that question, we'll get the question from every other person, and then we'll just answer every one of them together. Thank you very much.
Okay, this program is actually very enlightening. And then I hear people say most times that change is constant. Change is actually hard. like very hard. If you want to see progress, if you want to see change, it's very hard. Now, it is a decision that we all have to make, right? You know, there is a lot of mindset corruption, just as you mentioned earlier. You understand the ideology of most Nigerian youth is corrupt, you get, and then most people now no longer believe in this country. Actually, just as you said, the Japa factor has been affecting a lot of people. So they see no future in Nigeria now. So now, how can we change the mindset of these people? Do you understand? An average American man, when he gets to the traffic light, even if security are not there, it's just in him to follow the due process. Do you understand? So my question is now, how can we change their ideology? How can we change their mindset to see the change that we need? We all know what to do, but it is how to do it now. So how can we change? That's basically my question.
All right, thank you very much, Solomon. I think your question is still in almost the same line as the very first question we got. This is very impressive. Lawrence Onyema, can you go ahead so we can take your question, then we wrap it all up with the answers.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I listened to the speaker, Emmanuel, who has spoken. And I think the reason why I said I was going to key into this program, because I'm one of those who believe that Nigeria is a great country and it has great people. But we've had leadership failure over the years and keep disappointing the people every year. And over the decades, people have been disappointed. You know, now there seems to be some level of consciousness about the youth taking over the country, but there is some level of stronghold from the elite. One, the elite has weaponized poverty. So, and once poverty is weaponized, it becomes a tool, a means of an end for people to survive. So, in a country where almost 60-70% of the youth are out of job, and we're talking about, oh, we need to take back our country. How do we make that message sink? How do we convince the average Nigerian youth that, look, you don't need to leave the country to be successful. You can actually be successful in Nigeria. How do we give that average Nigerian youth that when he finishes a 4 years or 5 years degree program in the university, there's a job waiting for him somewhere, or there's a grant waiting for him somewhere to start up an entrepreneurship or get a job to support himself or support his family. So we've seen a country where the parents send their children to school from primary to secondary to university, and at the end of the day, they finish the study, and they're still stuck in the parents' house. The parents are still feeding them. No job. More. And this creates that room where the elites, they know very well that, look, we have weaponized this poverty and it's to the advantage to them. How will the Nigerian youth rise to the occasion? Another election is around the corner now. And for me, it is more like a litmus test. Will we rise to the occasion? That's what I would just want to ask. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll just go ahead with the very first question, since they are all almost under the same thing. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, beautiful. Now, first of all, The programs that Song Africa offers, they're border on what I shared initially, the Shape the Future, the Song Institute, the Song Advisory, and the Song Fellowship. Now, every single one of them falls into every single sphere that you all have pointed out in the questions you've made. Now, I'll start by going over the Shape the Future. Shape the Future is a program, it's a mentorship and capacity building program geared towards onboarding youths, that's people in the universities and those in secondary schools, into what governance is all about. We host these programs at varying times of the year, and it's open up for every single person to attend. These are physical events. What the goal for the event is that we bring in young individuals, both, like I said, from the universities and from the secondary school. So we're going even down to the grassroots level of education, as the case may be, the younger generations, because we believe that most of the things we see today that we categorize as bad governance is just bad mindset, that gave birth to bad decisions and then what we are seeing and experiencing today. So we believe that if we can reach out and reorient these younger individuals, we are certain that a better future is not far-fetched. Now, what do we want to do with Shape the Future? It's a program whereby we gather young individuals together and then we share with them. Sorry?
Yeah. That kid.
Oh, okay. Kindly mute your mic. I think your sound is.
It's not me.
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. Apologies.
No.
All right, just go ahead. So Shape the Future, like I said, is a program for the young individuals. So we have the programs for every single scope of individuals to bring them on board.
Sorry for the break. I think his network just kicked him out. He'll be joining back in a few moments. Let's just exercise some patience. Thank you.
That network glitch. Can we all hear me now clearly? Can we hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Now, like the programs I talked about, Shape the Future is focused on young individuals. Then we have Song Institute. Now, as I mentioned initially, that the focus for this webinar was built around 4 different categories. We have courses in our Song Institute built around 1, leadership and governance. So we use these sessions to train both young individuals, those aspiring to be in governance, those already in leadership positions, and those already in governance, with the tenets of what effective leadership and good governance is all about. That's for one of the courses. We have another course called Policy Design, Planning and Implementation. It takes individuals through the policy process. We understand that if a change is to be sustainable, it needs to be backed by a policy. You can make a demand today or make a choice today, but the only reason why another administration will probably come and take it up is because there's a policy backing it. So we use this particular course to train people on how to track policies, on how to, outline issues and problems or challenges that they want to see a change in, how to implement these as policies as the case may be. Another of our courses is history, culture, continuity, and legacy. Just like we did in tonight's session, we use that particular course to refer people back to what it was, what governance has always been, by understanding countries or scenarios of good governance. This gives younger individuals and those both in and out of government an understanding of what can be. So that's a forum for us to also train them. Like I said initially, the goal is to change the mindset. You change the mindset, you change the choices, you change the governance. Now, the last and the most important of all 4 courses is the innovation and development. We understand truly that if change is not only just to be sustainable, but to be effective, it needs to be backed by innovation, new knowledge, new implementation. These four courses I just mentioned are what we offer at our Song Institute, geared towards reorienting the mindset of every individual, both young and old, as to what governance, good governance is and how it can be achieved. Another arm of Song Africa is the Song Advisory. What we do at Song Advisory is to advise those in governance and also train those that want to go. I think early this year, our theme trained the grandson of Obafemi Awolowo, who was coming out for the House of Representatives for a particular constituency from his region. And such initiatives like that is what we offer to those that really want to go into governance and also those that are already in governance. So that's what the Song Advisory is for. So our scope is not necessarily limited to just those that are in governance, but also open up to those that are out of governance or those that actually want to go into governance. Now, another thing that is quite and very, very important is our Song Fellowship. Now, these programs that I have mentioned, they are all, like I said, varying programs, but they are all open to every category of person. So there's no age limit to say, okay, you need to be 16, for example, 18 or 35 to be able to participate in Song Institute program. The program actually runs for 3 months, and it has these 4 courses I mentioned as a curriculum we follow. We have like the Song Advisory I mentioned, that's for majorly those that are in governance and those aspiring to be so we work effectively with political parties, political aspirants. We are neutral. There's no political party in favor of us. When the need arises for a change of a mindset, we go there and we ensure that the good governance mandate is what they are going to take in whenever they come into office in various I don't know if this answers your question as to what you want to understand from South Africa is to ensure that this good governance is possible. Younger individuals so for the majorly for the younger individuals is to shape the future. We use these programs to onboard younger individuals into the system. We not only train them because of the program, we for them. But we understand truly that building an entrepreneurial ecosystem is something that guarantees an effective economy. An effective economy also good governance. We want to ensure that young individuals that want to go entrepreneurial in various spheres, they are being taught tenets how to various parastatals they want to find themselves in. So for those of us that ask the question, did this answer our questions or do you want me to elaborate?
It has answered my question partially because based on what you just said, I would like to say that those who don't have the opportunity to come in contact with you, as in the majority, let's say if we say 10%, then the people that you come in contact with that you will be able to like inculcate your values and change them will be like 3%, and the other 7% are those people that are in the village who don't have, I mean, the capacity to be in township or have they don't even have an idea that there's anything like Song Africa. So the majority of the people that need that orientation are in the rural areas where you aren't there. So what do we do? Because most of these people, those thugs that politicians use are in the rural areas. So how are we going to change the country if we really want to see this change? It means you have to take your campaign deep inside the rural areas. It will not just be in township in order for it to make a meaningful impact. As we are approaching 2023, we know that a lot of things will happen. And by just saying it on the radio and everything, it will change a bit, but I think we have more work to do. So that's where I am a bit more concerned.
All right, thank you very, very much. Thank you very, very much for that. So one thing is that is pertinent to all this is the programs we really organize. They're not necessarily just focused on urban settlements as the case could be, but that it appears to, and I totally understand where you're coming from. The fact that mostly all our things are digitalized, and it appears that people at the grassroots level or in the rural settlement actually have access to what we focus on the upcoming 2023 elections. We have designed a program that ensures that we keep this message. It appears to be more of like a match. We don't have, we cannot really disclose at this point what the title of the match is going to be. But that's focused on going to the grassroots and educating the tenants and how they themselves can help. Because like we have established initially, the social contract demands that in as much as we want to demand good governance from those in the offices, we also have our own role. We want to be able to give them awareness of what their role is and how they can ensure that good governance no longer an imagination but a reality. So we have a program tailored to them. Any of us that will be able to come up on song just after this session. We'll keep you updated via our mailing list as to how the program is going to be rolled out and how you can be part of this program. It's all focused towards the 2020 election, but we understand truly that yes, it's not enough to have our publicity done on social media platforms or even on the radio. We cannot necessarily reach everyone even via the radio. So we're taking it to the grassroots regions, and we hope that everyone on this call will be able to join us as well when the time comes. So what we have to do is we'll drop our email address here for as many of you that want to be part of this strong movement. You'll be able to send us a direct message, and then we add it to our mailing list aware when these programs are about to roll out. Thank you very much. Okay, there's a question from Lawrence. Okay, Lawrence, go ahead. Mr. Lawrence Oyema, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
All right, so I see your hand is up.
Okay, yeah, just one or two questions. I think what I wanted to find out is Song Africa for profit or non-profit?
Song Africa is a non-profit organization.
Okay. So how do you fund the activities you intend to roll out?
Okay, so that information cannot necessarily be disclosed on this call. We have our mails dropped on the chat room. I feel if you want to really get the answer to that question, because that question basically focuses on those that want to partner with us and collaborate us. And but this is an open session. So if you want to keenly discuss about that, take it up on there. Thank you. I see the hand of sorry, I hope I don't pronounce the name wrongly once more. I feel so bad because you already mentioned it. Ngwave saying something of that nature. Please kindly go ahead with your question. I see your hand up.
Thank you very much. And it's Ngwave, and it's not something of that nature. So thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
I think what I heard when the founder was speaking was that the idea is to instigate or to engage individuals who themselves will begin to create this change and begin to demand more from the government. And I know very well that Song cannot do everything by themselves. And the whole point of engaging us and building our consciousness about the challenges that we are having right now is for us to also take the message back to the grassroots or back to our constituencies and begin to spread it across board. We also understand clearly that the issue of youth is not just for the young people by themselves, but is working in collaboration with each constituency or each stakeholder in the community to collectively build this change. Unfortunately, the gap has been created and is so wide. There's a current statistics right now that says about I think 16 million Nigerians or thereabout are living in poverty, and it's poverty of different levels. It's a multi-faceted poverty of a lack of education, lack of food security, and is multifaceted. Some of these challenges actually, like someone said, were weaponized poverty. And because the gap has been so wide, I think for us to begin to engage and mobilize at the grassroots level, and we understand that sometimes even when they do this vote buying, they give you a paltry sum of money and they turn their backs and begin to amass all the wealth. It's the social re-engineering and the building of our collective consciousness to begin to organize. I think one of the illustrations that made a lot of sense to me was the one of the bourgeoisie sitting on the table, and then the people are kneeling down with the table on their back. And if they get up, the table will turn over. I think that is where we need to start from, to be able to build the consciousness of the people around us to be able to engage. Otherwise, we'll keep sitting at these round tables, we'll keep talking, and then we'll not see any change. So I always believe in taking action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's what we here. So welcome every single collaborator part of song to see that this so I no longer have any questions at the moment. So I will just give our speaker once more the floor to just share it before we end. Our time is already fast spent. You are really all benefited at some point all this session of what we can do. And I hope that we are all empowered as well, because the goal was to empower us with what we can actually do is to ensure that this governance is finds Pastor Emmanuel, can you give us like 1 minute or 2 minutes? What you feel like your party, I'm not going to be party wants, like your actionable step that you engage everyone of us to enlighten everyone of us.
Yeah, so thank you once again, Gary. Those the questions from my other very good friends. It's nice to have Lawrence here. We've lost touch for a while. It's good to have you here. I think my parting words will be, all of us will have our respective spheres of influence. So at that level, the level of our social engagement, in the level of the church, in our professional ecosystem, as much as we can. All of us, I'm happy that we have almost the same mindset on this webinar tonight. So it will be good for us to make sure that we keep driving this, that same national orientation, that same national rebirth that our country so desires, is crying for, is yearning for. We should keep pushing it. If you have someone that you can talk to, just keep the evangelism of a national rebirth. That's just all that I can say. You never can tell. That is how this thing continues and then spreads like wildfire. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for your words of encouragement. Thank you for being for impacting us this evening. And before Guy comes back to I think end the session, I just want to redirect everybody to the chat room. So please go to the chat room and please take down the email addresses that have been dropped there for if you have any questions about Song Africa that is still not clear to you. Please do well to forward your questions and inquiries to the email address that have been placed there. And please, very important, follow us on our social media handles. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. Please do us follow us, and so you can be updated with everything Song Africa is doing. You're already a part of the movement. As long as you're a part of this session, you're a part of the movement, because now you're enlightened. And I think you now have it back in your hand to pass the gospel. All right? And as time goes on, we'll keep learning and keep improving and keep making the change in our own sphere of influence, because it starts from a little voice. that one verse, then one person, two persons, a group that understands, the light shines in darkness and darkness comprehends it not. So wherever there's ignorance, there's darkness. So now we've gained knowledge, and it's only right that we make the knowledge of gain and light, put on the light of every other person that's in the darkness and do not know what to do. So please and please, let's take advantage of this opportunity that we have now, and then follow us on social media and be part of what we're doing. Thank you very much for being a part of this meeting tonight.
Thank you all very much for your time. We are indeed grateful. On behalf of Song Africa, we say once more, thank you all for your time. We look forward to hearing from each and every one of us from this call. We're looking forward to seeing your email addresses, your emails, and your direct messages on our social media platforms, so we can see how we all can work together to achieve this change. This is us done. Thank you all very much once more for joining. Thank you, Pastor Emmanuel, for such a well thought out and articulated rendition. We were really, really, really impacted. Thank you very much. Thank you once more, everyone. And this is us done. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
All right, bye. Thanks, everyone.